teaching.
Okay, and what's the topic?
Oh, the topic is changing the way we see things.
Oh, what a brave thing to do. Okay, good. So this little thing they're going to do, where's it? Who's going to offer?
So Dave,
Dave, you've made a mandala. How amazing. Okay. So this is okay, we better explain. You'll see it in a minute, but there's this wonderful tradition. It's probably Tibetan, but obviously it's based on the teachings, where it's called offering a mandala. So if you look at those, first of all, if you look at those, the usual word we know for mandala, if you look at those circular pictures, right? That's just really like an architectural drawing of the abode of the different Buddhas. It's all that's their mandala. So this is the mandala. This is the universe, our mandala. So it's not like we describe. You've not probably learned in school that our sky is blue because it reflects off lapis lazuli, because we're in the southern continent. I mean, who knew that? Nobody. That's Buddhist cosmology. So we're pretending we all know about Buddhist cosmology, but that's according to this, it's several layers and all sorts of contents, and he's going to offer. But if we don't know that, we don't, then we imagine all the lovely things in the world that people use that make us happy, basically. We imagine piling them up and then offering as a request for the teachings. I mean, think offering to the Buddha. I'm the person who's speaking, but hopefully Buddha comes through me a little bit and don't make too many things up. So we're all together making a request to the teachings. And those who know this little mudra, it represents the universe. In the middle is Mount Meru. Again, you didn't learn that in geography. And you've got the 4 continents over here, north, south, east, and west. So, but meanwhile, we just visualize our mandala, our universe, okay? Okie doke, go. Who's leading? And he's going to sing the little prayer in Tibetan, but just use your creative imagination, imagine as many things as possible, and offering. Good. Let's just wait a little bit, hold it up. So hold it up, just wait again. Is it heavy? Hold it. Meto ni de again padi Sangye Jing. Take a photo. You hold it as well. We take the photo. Oh. So imagine that Buddha happily receives it. Idam Guru Ratna Mandalakam Niryatayami. Very nice. That's beautiful, day. Well done. Okie doke. Time to go?
Yeah.
I need the mic.
Do we need the microphone?
Is it only for amplification here in the room?
Yes.
We don't need it
Yes,
then.
we don't.
I don't think we need it. You hear me?
Yes.
You hear me on the Zoom? Yeah? Okay, good. Good. All right. Put away then. Okay, so why on earth would we want to change our minds, Why would we want to do that? Well, simply because we want to be happy. It's the simplest reason. We want to be happy. So therefore, what is it in our mind that we would like to change that doesn't make us happy? And very clear from the Buddhist perspective, it's called attachment, anger, jealousy, resentment, low self-esteem, hopelessness, pride, arrogance, all this half a dozen or 49, or according to Buddha, 84,000, who would have thought, neurotic states of mind, basically. And this is really the essence. This is the essence of Buddhist teachings, the essence of it. The bottom line of all Buddha's path to enlightenment, all this information we hear and read in books, the essence of it is this. The essence of it is this. That he has found from his own experience. He's not a creator. It's not from revelation. He didn't have a dream. He didn't have a vision. He's not making it up. He's not speculating. It's his own direct experience. He has found from his own direct experience in the depths of his own mind that his mind, and he has deduced that this is the mind of everybody, that these neuroses, these unhappy states of mind that we are so familiar with. Is this being recorded? No.
Yes.
Okay, I see. Okay, so I'll be polite. You can't, okay. That from his own experience, he's found, and this is the essence of the entire path to enlightenment, I promise, that these neurotic states of mind, which we are very familiar with, I mean, the moment I said those words, we all went tick, 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 yep, I know that one, that he has found that they are not at the core of our being, and therefore can be removed. This is what he's saying, So what he's found, but what he's found even before that, I missed the point. He's found, this is the point, that these states of mind are the main source of why we suffer. And that he has found that they're not at the core of our being and therefore can be removed. And that end result of that is what's known in the world as nirvana, what's known by Buddha as nirvana. Not some place like heaven, but really meaning, it's the state of a person's mind who has rid the mind of these, which is the causes, suffering and its causes. This is essentially it. So then, first of all, when we hear this, we think, oh, that's religion, that's Buddha, that's religion. Oh yeah, okay, religion, holy. No, this is psychology. He didn't use that word, obviously. They didn't speak Greek, but this is basically Buddhist psychology. And that sometimes surprises us as well, because we hear religion, we hear meditation, we hear prayers. Oh, that's religion, kind of whole new kettle of fish, another kettle of fish. But this is Buddhist psychology. This is his expertise, which might be a surprise to us. Something mystical. It's nothing mystical. It's nothing, like I said, it's not revelation. Like I always quote this, but some fellow in New Zealand a few years ago, and it blew my mind because I've never been asked this before or since, but it's such a perfect question. He was a scientist, actually. He said, who revealed the teachings to the Buddha? Which is a brilliant question because it tells us immediately his assumption, like the assumption in the world, that what's called religious philosophy can't be proved. It doesn't come from experience. It comes from on high. It was so extraordinary to be asked that. Never anybody ever before or since. That we assume what's called religious philosophy. And as soon as we hear the word prayer, as soon as we hear the word meditate, then we think, oh, religion, assuming, therefore we can't prove it. But this is the point that's so radically different about the Buddhist view. And because you see, we need to go into this in more depth in our culture, where we come from religious philosophies that assert a creator. In fact, they're the only religious philosophies that we really know. Okay, we know there are things like, all the viewpoints of Australian Aboriginals, for example, or strange other people we don't know about. We're not sure I don't know if they have a creator. I'm not sure. We certainly know from the big main ones all come from that little spot called Israel, so tiny you could jog across it. The Hindu, the Muslims, the Christians and the Jews. Religious means creator. Creator means revelation, therefore can't be proved. This is so deep in our bones, this assumption, right? So that's the assumption from his question. So I said to him in answer, would you ask Einstein, who revealed the teachings about relativity to him? And of course, we all burst into laughter because, of course, we wouldn't. But this is the point. And this is, even as we hear this, even if we're Buddhists, we still hear this, we think it's being clever. That Buddha actually is more similar from that point of view to Einstein than to Jesus. That's actually a fact, but we don't hear it that way, And why is simply because we assume you can't prove these things. As soon as it's religious, you can't prove it. Now, indeed, if you have faith in a creator, and I remember I was in love with God. I loved God when I was a Catholic as a kid, I was definitely in love with God, loved God. If you have faith in a creator, then indeed you cannot prove what he says. Because if you say you can, that means you become God, and you cannot say that. So it's reasonable that you don't prove and you don't want to prove. You want to have faith in God, and I'm not complaining about this. And that's the assumptions we have, it's so deep in us. And then as soon as we hear the Buddha talks about reincarnation, instantaneously we say, oh, don't be ridiculous, who can prove that? And this gets us to what we have to show, and this has got to be spelled out to us modern people. I mean, Buddha's teachings are spoken by Buddhists to Buddhists. They've spoken to the choir. They're speaking to the choir, Tibetans, there's been there for 1,700 years or something, or 1,200, whatever. India for 3,000 years, these views about karma, let's say, and no creator, have been in their bones for many, many years. So they don't need to prove it. We need to have it. We need to think it through and unpack it, in order to make sense of these words here. Not to mention make sense of the words when you talk about the mind, not the soul, the mind, that delusions, neuroses, ego, attachment, anger, jealousy, pride are not at the core of our being, can be removed. That's a pretty demented concept. I mean, when we say mind, we mean brain, we mean neuroscience. You go to a neuroscientist, please give me methods to get rid of all ego, all fears, all jealousy forever. They will think you're mentally ill, and I'm really serious. Because there's no view like that in modern psychological views. There's no view like that in neuroscience. I mean, we tried cutting bits of brains out back a few years ago and, turned people into vegetables. Wasn't helpful. So we've got to analyze what he means by this. He's either talking a load of rubbish, We've got to look into it. We tend not to want to look into, oh, that's just ridiculous. Don't be ridiculous, you know. Can't prove that. That's stupid, you know. So let's look at it. Let's see what he says. In other words, with Einstein, we know very well, this is the point, we know that he was a person who used his intelligence, who used his own mind, and he observed things. And this is where Mr. Galileo, wasn't it, started moving away from the Christians, and he practically got, you know, burned at the stake for daring to do that, for disagreeing that the sun moved around the earth, which is what the Catholic Church said. And that was the only truth that existed then, God's truth. So the Buddha has that approach. So let's just remind ourselves where this information is coming from, because as he said, who revealed to him, it was such a brilliant question, but it wasn't revealed to him in exactly the same way that relativity and all the other things that we call science that have been proven by individuals to be true, that it's not revelation, it's not cross your fingers, it's not coming from a speculation, it's not made up, it's not coming from a dream, it's not coming from a vision. Einstein used his intelligence and he observed. Now, this is a crucial point now. What did he observe? He observed the natural things of the world. So clearly, from that perspective, we're talking about the mind from the modern point of view, which is the function of the brain, which only, you know, is a certain level of cognition. That's why the other one, Galileo, basically moved away from the Christian view that what God says is true and that you can't see it with your mind. You can't, it's not part of natural laws, it's God's law. In Buddhism, there's no equivalent. There is only natural law for the Buddha. But the radical point is this, and this is why we have to just hypothesize this possibility and look into it, that when we say mind in our culture, we're referring to neuroscience and the brain and the function of conceptuality, the intelligence we use from day to day, and our sensory consciousness. But if you ask Buddha about the mind, he's got a radically different view, a radically different definition. And that we have to first look into that to see what he's meaning in order to understand how it is possible to do what Buddha said, which is to observe natural laws, but with a level of mind that we don't even posit as existing. And this is the part that's the trouble when I speak to people like, you know, my sisters, for example, who, you know, we were all brought up Catholic. Now they're all materialists, philosophical materialism, which is the view of the world. As soon as you say Buddha's view of the mind, it's like a joke, you know, it's like silly. This is religion. You can't prove it. That's the assumption. Very deep. Not my sisters, anybody who's a materialist, who's not interested in asking the question, well, what do you mean by the mind? What do you mean by that? And listening to it. But if we've got a closed mind, we can't hear it, you know? So, okay, what's Buddha's view of the mind? This is the key to the point. This is the whole point. Well, this is where it's completely different. So different. It's like, this is where it sounds like religion, okay? Oh, I can't prove it. So Buddha, for the word Buddha, the word mind, okay, in fact, it was coming from these Indians. He came out of this amazing system, as His Holiness the Dalai Lama always points out to us modern people. It was these amazing Indians more than 3,000 years ago, pre-Buddha. They were the ones who came up, they were the ones who first began the investigation into the nature of self. Well, we white European type people, if there were any of us here, thought it was Mr. Freud, did we not, 100 years ago? Such clever people. I'm sorry, we're a bit behind. This is really serious. They were the ones who began the investigation into the nature of self. The I, the person, what are we, you know? And how they did, and this is the point, how they did that investigation is so radically different from the approach we use in science that it's hard to even hear it. In science, we use our eyes, we use our intelligence, we use microscopes, right? And we investigate the brain. Nothing wrong. It's an incredible science. Because that's what we think, that's what we say the mind is. So for the Buddha, it's not. So one, mind and consciousness, these words are used virtually synonymously, okay? They're the names he uses to refer to the actual subjective cognitive process itself. From the most kind of obvious level of conceptuality, all the thoughts, all the crazy thoughts, all the feelings, all the emotions, unconscious, subconscious, instinct, intuition, whatever this whole entire spectrum of our inner being. For the Buddha, that is your mind, that is your consciousness. And often I think in the West we use the word consciousness to refer to something slightly more trippy, hippie, but as they are equivalent in the Buddhist view. They are the mind. One. Two, by definition, is not physical. And this is extensive literature, extensive in all the Buddhist literature, in all the Buddhist texts over the centuries. The body of knowledge about the mind is extensive and vast in Buddhism, coming again from these Indians before the Buddha. It is not physical. And the next radical point is it is not, I mean, okay, it's not physical, and it's not even a function of the brain. I mean, I always say it without trying to insult neuroscientists, I would say that what goes on in the brain and the body and the DNA and the physical and the genes, the stuff that we can see with our microscopes, which are the components of a person for sure, that they are a physical indicator, especially the brain, of what is going on in the mind, consciousness. But the main radical point is that these Indians, through this incredibly sophisticated skill that they invented, that the world vaguely know, that what the world vaguely knows as mindfulness and the 57 varieties of that is based on this particular technique that's called, when you've got it, single-pointed concentration. The term in Sanskrit is samadhi. And this level of concentration, this is the point now, is a level of cognition, a level of mind that we absolutely do not posit as existing in the modern world. There's no equivalent, because it's way more subtle than the levels we function at now, through conceptuality and through the sensory, which indeed do depend upon a good working brain. But these levels of mind that these Indians discovered with this incredibly sophisticated skill do not depend upon the brain, do not depend upon the body. In fact, if you saw a person in this samadhi, they would look like they are dead. This is something we have to take on board. As soon as we say words like that, we're talking about a soul, and we have a panic attack. Oh my God, religion, go away, He also doesn't call it a soul. He has no view of a soul. No, very big views, but not. He doesn't posit a thing that's separate from the mind and the body that's called a soul. No concept like that. We have a mind which is not physical, which goes to incredibly more subtle levels. And in order to do this job of eradicating the neuroses, we need to get to that level of mind using this brilliant technique. So Lord Buddha went through that system as far as he could go. And he agrees with many of those Hindus' findings. And he went further and further in relation to his own direct experiential findings about the self. He then disagreed with their views. He said they haven't rid the mind totally of all the nonsense. So he diverged in his own direction. Now we have what's called Buddhism, the last 2,500 years. And one of their central techniques is this one these Indians invented. Thank you, these genius Indians, It's still a living, extant, real technique. Every day, people like you and me are achieving this samadhi, this subtle state of cognition that is infinitely more powerful, infinitely more amazing, infinitely more capable, infinitely more subtle. It's not cosmic, it's not hippy-trippy, it's not cross your fingers and hope for the best. It takes incredible effort, skill and brilliance and discipline to get to that level. And then we need to get to that level to do this job that Buddha says we can eventually do, rid the mind of the rubbish. It's a long-term job, We start where we are. So this is the words about Buddhism view of mind, Buddhist view of mind. Completely different. It's so clear. It's completely different. So Buddha says, so then what he did with his mind at that subtle level was able to observe the reality of the world, but clearly at a more subtle level. Mind has the capacity to cognize. So sensory consciousness cognizes certain things. Sensory eye consciousness cognizes shape and color. Ear consciousness cognizes sound. Mental consciousness, the level we function at, according to the Buddhist model of the mind, is the grosser level that's called conceptuality. We know there's 1,000 thoughts a second. We know that. Which are also underpinning our emotional states of mind. But we have these far subtler, more refined, more powerful, more amazing, more capable, don't hear it as mystical, levels of cognition. If you read some of the descriptions of what your mind is like when you've accomplished this, it sounds like science fiction. This is coming from the direct experience, not hippy-trippy, not cross your fingers, not hope for the best, not a vision coming from God that's hit and miss, not like that. And this is natural law. So Buddha also has observed natural law. He doesn't talk about, there's no equivalent of Buddha's law. Well, I mean, in a normal sense, there is, in a simple sense of, when the Buddha started becoming bigger and bigger, and he started having monks, he created rules to how to live together, But from the fundamentals of fundamental ethics and reality, he talks about this natural law, natural law. That's a big surprise to us. So he's saying that he has discovered that these neurotic states of mind are the source of our pain and our suffering and the source of why we harm others. And he has found methods to rid the mind of them. In other words, he has found a method to stop suffering. That's what he talks about, basically. Stop suffering, quit suffering and its causes. This is the very first teaching he gave, And he says every mind has that potential. Now, incidentally, he not only says that on the Mahayana Buddhist path, he also says you can add to that incredible wisdom and subtlety and clarity and brilliance, another whole component of unbelievable practice of compassion, and finally culminating in using this Sanskrit word called bodhicitta, this outrageous paradigm shift in the mind, where now with the development of love and compassion for others, we can even, the two of these together can become a Buddha. Buddha in Sanskrit, that's to Sanskrit, in Tibetan, sangye. The etymology of those two words, those syllables. Sang, the etymology is what I've just said before. A bird needs two wings, wisdom and compassion. So if you like, sung is the eradication of the nonsense. That's sung, that's the wisdom wing. You've accomplished your goal. You're amazing and blissful and clear and wise. No longer neuroses left, no longer mistakes, no longer drama. You have achieved liberation from suffering and its causes. You add to that the compassion wing, this amazing bodhicitta. That's indicated by the second syllable, gay, and that implies the development to perfection of all the rest of the mind, which are at the core of our being, which is called wisdom and virtue and goodness. Virtue and goodness, So Buddha's view, we have to discuss now, this method, his way of seeing the mind, the contents of the mind is almost deceptively simple. So first of all, we've got sensory consciousness and we have mental consciousness. And this is already an amazingly helpful way of seeing things. Okay, let's look at this one. When you study Buddhist epistemology, it's totally fascinating, the way the mind functions. This is just one aspect of it, which is extremely helpful in indicating to us the way Buddha says we live in la-la land because of this nonsense in our minds, So sensory consciousness, mental consciousness, I use the same example every time, but I have to use it, the same one every time. So I look here. Sorry, I'm just going to do an experiment. Thank you. Not asking for more water. Thank you. I'll have a drink first. Excuse me. Cheers. I'm doing my experiment. So you see me all look here, right? And I'll go, and I mean it because I chose it for this reason. That is a very well-designed thermos, I'll say. Isn't it? We do that. Like I go online, and when I lose it, I buy another one. Same one. You understand me? As soon as something breaks, you want to immediately make it come again. So luckily I keep getting this brand, whatever it is, Kinko or something, I forget. Anyway, never mind. So I will say I see a very nicely designed thermos. So without analysis, we all agree that means when I look over here that you're saying my eyes see a nicely designed thermos. Well, don't be silly, Buddha says. And I think it's fairly evident. No, sensory consciousness, there's huge discussion about this in Buddhist psychology, Buddhist epistemology, a very huge discussion about the function of the mind, the way mind functions. And this is all, again, remember, this is coming not from looking at the brain. This is what's so outrageous about this. It's coming from internally observing your own inner mind. I mean, we don't have an equivalent. We don't even trust the mind in our culture. I think psychology is the lowest on the totem pole of the sciences because it's kind of soft and wishy-washy. The opposite for the Buddha, I tell you. You observe internally with this incredibly powerful level of mind called samadhi. You're able, it's capable, like a microscope of your mind, so unbelievably capable. They mapped the mind internally. You've got to hear those words. So it's like the sensory consciousness. Basically, the senses are like dumb animals with respect to animals. But we give such power to our senses, do we not? As Lama says, we make the body the boss. Completely give it way too much power, the five senses, than they really have, which means our body. And in our world, that's all we are, is it not? We're only physical. So what's going on here from the Buddhist analysis is my I consciousness, and I spell that out to mean the part of my mind consciousness that's not physical, remember? That's a fundamental point we have to state as our hypothesis here. Combined with an eyeball that works, the eyelid open, the lights on, all the conditions, all appropriate, there will be a cognition of that eye consciousness. And eye consciousness, they're all the sensory consciousnesses are profoundly limited in their capacity for cognition. Eye consciousness can only cognize shape and color. That's it. Ear consciousness, only mere sound. So the obvious question is, which part of my mind is having the cognition of nicely designed thermos? It's obvious. It's an important next question. Well, what happens is the second my eyes go there, quicker than Google, and I'm serious. I remember Lama Yeshe in his Mahamudra book talks about even when you got a little bit of concentration in the samadhi technique, just a little bit, it's described in terms of 9 stages, even get to maybe the 5th stage. He says your mind is inconceivably brilliant, more brilliant than any computer, as if you can count every atom in the universe. And they mean that sincerely. The level of mind beyond the conceptual, beyond the sensory, is incredibly powerful. And we don't even posit it as existing in modern science. Fact, fact, fact. Which is why these amazing discussions have been so fantastic with the Dalai Lama the last 30, 40 years with all the best brains in the West, beginning to dare to question our assumptions about what the mind is, Like I'll come back to this. That reminds me, when I was working on Lama Zopa Rinpoche's book about death, how to face death without fear, while I was doing it, I read a book by an American medical journalist called Dick. I always think of Dick Tracy, but it's Dick Tracy or something, or Nick Tracy. I think it's Nick, but I think of him as Dick Tracy. He's an American journalist in the medical profession, and his expertise is death. So everyone thinks he should be depressed, but he's very funny. He's hilarious, actually. And he's done this book called he's written this book called, this is 10 years ago, more, called The Undead. And it's his research in the American medical profession of all the obstacles and problems and contradictions about exactly when death happens because of the business of farming, not farming, we'll call it that, organs, harvesting organs, yeah. And in the end, he was quite cynical about the profession. He admits it's an amazing thing, but the arrogance, the elitism, the pushing, the manipulating of people, and all this, whatever, that's okay. He's allowed to say that. It's his expertise. But he's basically many things, reading it very quickly. He basically was now, for example, one of the things he talked about was, we know from centuries, isn't it, that people come back to life, quote unquote. In so many cultures, there are reports of people being dead and they come back to life. So, of course, that's in the too hard basket for our neuroscientific world. We don't know how to explain it. But now it's a problem because this wretched boy, they're dying to get his nice, fresh little liver, and the damn man comes back to life. How inconvenient. So it becomes a real problem. Much more than that in this book. It was very fascinating. One chapter he had was on all the different experiences people have called out-of-body experiences while they're on the operating table. So it's a good example, because according to the medical profession, it's not possible. But these reports, of people knowing exactly what the doctors were talking about, the jokes they were cracking, the music they were playing, but he said he used one example, because most of them just don't want to believe it. One example of one woman who had to have such a radical procedure that they had to stop all her organs, and from their point of view, there's no way she could be conscious. But he joked about how she reported the most vivid out-of-body experience, and you cannot argue with these things. So it's forcing people, I think it's fantastic, to question their assumptions. So in the Buddhist tradition, especially the Vajrayana, the more esoteric teachings, they're very clear in the way they describe. It's a different kind of model. We've got gross consciousness, which is the sensory. Then we have subtle consciousness, which includes your mental consciousness, which is all your thoughts and feelings and emotions. So let me just finish my little thing back here, then I'll go back to the story. So, okay, what happens is quicker than Google, my eyes go here, and then instantaneously quicker than Google, my mental consciousness is accessed. As Lama Zopa says, that's where the workshop is. And we know it's the thousands of thoughts and feelings, and they're basically opinions and viewpoints that we have gathered over our lives, right? Isn't it? And we end up having opinions about things, our politics and what we like, and design and music and treat, everything in the world, we have opinions, right? We know that. We know that. That's called conceptual thoughts. And that is for the Buddha, the grossest level of what's called mental consciousness, just the tip of the iceberg. And that's all we posit, pretty much, in neuroscience, as we know. So as we know, this happens every millisecond. From the second you wake up in the morning, what happens? You instantaneously, your senses come back to life, and you open your eyes, your senses are open, and these are the doorway to our world, are they not? And of course, they dominate our lives. The feelings right here, you stub your toe as you get out of bed, if the smell of the coffee is strong, if the noise of your hubby snoring, instantaneously our first response is to our sensory experiences. But the response is in the mental consciousness. And what happens? A bunch of opinions start coming. The damned husband, he knows I hate snoring. That Starbucks straw on my toe. Oh, that coffee's divine. Is it not? So from the second our senses are contacted, which is basically the outside world, what happens is mental consciousness kicks in, and off we go having opinions. She sees the same shape and color. And what's her opinion? What a disgusting cup. And we will have a war. Are we seeing this? In other words, we live in our conceptual thoughts, and they are a bunch of opinions. And this is getting to the point the Buddha's making. A bunch of them are called neurotic, delusional, disturbing, distressing misconceptions. And this is very surprising to us. This is exactly what I'm going to get into, because this is the stuff we're trying to change in our minds. So it's surprising to hear. I'm going to go back to the man in a minute, the death one. I'll go back to that. I'll go back now. Okay, I'll go back now. Okay, so this guy, he had all these reports of these outed body. And one of the things he had was also these people who, okay. So now the tantric view that Vajrayana talks about gross consciousness, which is the senses, right? And in the stages of death, which is described in great detail, that's when the senses first cease. So when you stop breathing, that's in this model, that's the end of your gross consciousness. And that is when we are ready for the body bag in our culture. We know that because there's no evidence of the heart, the warmth goes, and there's no evidence of a brain. So that's what we call death, because that's all we posit in our world. From this view, the Buddhist view, no, the person isn't dead yet. Merely the senses have ceased and a certain level of their conceptuality. But your subtler level of mental consciousness, subtle consciousness, is still existing. And that's the same level of mind that you have when you're having a coma. It's the same level of mind when you're asleep, having a dream. It's the same level of mind when you're floating above your body, watching the operation. Do you understand me? That's mental consciousness. And there's no evidence of it. There's no sign of the brain. That's what's shocking to people. This woman who has had all her organs absolutely ceased. No possibility from their point of view, but she had the most vivid experience. So you just can't argue. So there's one doctor in this industry said, I have to say now that consciousness is not a function of the brain. I don't know what it is, but that I can say. So it's so fantastic, I think, that we're now questioning our assumptions, because you can't argue with that. So the point in the Buddhist view, the sleep process in this Vajrayana system, the sleep process is exactly the same process that occurs at the time of death, but obviously more radical, because when you stop breathing, when you die, you stop breathing altogether. When you sleep, your breathing just calms down, but your senses have ceased, haven't they? It's clear. So your sensory consciousness has ceased, but your mental consciousness is still there, and that's the part of you that dreams. That's the part that dreams, and that's the same as the part that has a coma, and as I said before. So you're seeing, I mean, this book is more than 10 years ago, and I'm reading more and more the dramas and obstacles and problems now of taking people's organs, because it's really, even in Europe now, they've lobbied to change the laws, where now it is the law that they will take your organs. You've got to actually write that you don't want your organs taken. And he was so cynical about this industry. And I mean, Lama Zopa, in his book, there's a chapter on what to do in these different scenarios when you die, including what to do if your loved one gives their organs. He praises anybody who gives organs. But it can be a real problem. And I'll give you the example. I mean, it's too much to talk about it here because it's the way you die that determines the karma that is triggered that determines your next life. This is really huge for the Buddhists, and this is the point of Lama Zopa's book, to help our loved ones die peacefully. But the point is this one. This is the point. This is one of the in one of the chapters he talked about this particular woman who was giving her organs, which is amazing. And so what happens is the Buddhist view is that before she stopped breathing, the particular karmic seed that will determine her next life will be triggered then, and it needs to be a virtuous one, the Buddhist view, because you want another human body. I won't go into that too detail. So it's a crucial time. As Lama Zopa says, if anybody is going, if people need your help in this life and they need you most, is at the time of death, to help them navigate the death process. So you die peacefully, so a virtuous karmic seed is triggered, so you get another decent human body, so you can keep on moving on your spiritual path. That's behind it all. So the point is this: in the book, he mentioned this woman given her organs, and the nurse monitoring the heartbeat said the moment they got the circular saw to cut her open to take her organs, she wouldn't feel anything because her senses have ceased, right? But the heart, she said she noticed the heart went from 100 to 200 beats a minute. And the author joked, I wonder what a dead person has to worry about, right? So we'd say, oh, it's an instinct or something. But this is really evident. I would suggest very clearly from this model that she is having an out-of-body experience. Do you see my point? Because very clear from the Buddhist view, the mind takes up to 3 days to leave the body. So, in the same way that many people, like on their operating table, can see what's going on, there's even recently, I read in a medical magazine now, because there's so much more distress now about people, their organs, and they're still alive and they discover it. So this one young man who got caught up in some gang fight, he was he wasn't a gangster, he just got caught up and got shot. They just said that he was brain dead. And this whole story is him because he came back out of the coma and reported that he was completely conscious the whole time. And they say, tap the bed twice if you can hear us. And he tapped the bed. They didn't notice. Blink your eyes. He blinked his eyes. They didn't notice, And he's panicking completely because they're talking about cutting his damned organs out. He's listening to everything, completely conscious. His mummy's there crying, they're saying prayers, they're playing his favorite music, and they didn't not paying attention, And somehow the disconnect in the hospital, the rush to get his organs, he's on the damn operating table, and his doctor discovers and comes running in, take that man off that table. And he comes back to life and he reports the whole thing. I mean, more and more you're hearing things like this, That's your mental consciousness. It's like your dream mind. That's your mental consciousness. The senses have ceased and your mental consciousness now, which is the level of consciousness that these great yogis have discovered, but have access, but in a crystal clear way, not in a weird, wacky way like dreams, that doesn't depend upon the brain. This is the whole point here. And of course, immediately we think this is a load of rubbish. We've got to have a mind open. And this is why it's so good, I think, these discussions, questioning these assumptions is fantastic, I think, So Lama Zopa says, in the book, when I interviewed him about these different things, and I told him about these experiences of this man in the book, and I said, do you have advice? He said, no, at least the hospitals try and be careful. And the reason is because this woman, for example, we can deduce that she died with a peaceful mind. Rinpoche says anyone who gives their organs, it's so amazing, so special, such compassion. You only can die peacefully. It triggered a virtuous karmic seed. She stopped breathing. They keep her breathing, which means her mind. And this is the point. If you can keep a person breathing, if they're warm, if their body can stay toasty and warm and their brain can work, that means their consciousness has to be there. The Western says, no, they're dead and they're artificially alive. No, they are alive. The presence of consciousness means you are alive. That's the Buddhist view. So it's discussing all this, okay? The subtler level of mind, the Buddhism would assert. Discussing all that. Okay, so back to this one, okay? We can see, this is the thing, and the main point I'm trying to get to here, leading now to how do we change our mind and which part of our mind and why would we, is this one. We have the sensory, and then we have our interpretations. And this should be very sobering for us. It's very obvious. Amy will look and think it's ugly. I will look and I'll say it's nice. And this is the point now. This is the point Buddha's saying. If we've developed these habits, not just in this life, he would say countless past lives, our particular taste, our prejudices, our viewpoints, we see our lives, humans are full of viewpoints, and that's why we have wars. But the tragedy is, because I've developed a habit that has caused me to find that shape and color pleasing. She has developed habits in her life to see that shape and color as unpleasing. But this is the point. That's the tragedy. I don't think it's an opinion I have. I think it's objective truth. I think well-designed thermos is somehow a character of the black and the stuff. I don't ever think for 1 second, we in the world never think for 1 second, it's merely an opinion. We say it's the truth, and that's the problem. And this is the essence of all Buddha's teachings, that what goes on in our mind, as Lama Zopa says, the way the world out there appears back to us is in the aspect, as they say, of whatever's in our mind. I mean, we hear this is true, but because we're buying into whatever we see and hear as the truth, we never question. We fall into the trap every time. He is ugly. She is bad. He is this. That is that. And the point about these states of mind, the virtuous ones, they're okay because they're not neurotic. So this is the key point. The 3 categories of states of mind in the Buddhist model, speaking very simply. Thousands of states of mind we can see. And they fit into these 3 categories. The first lot are the voices of the ego, the I. They're neurotic, they're unpeaceful, they're fearful, they're anxiety-based, they're delusional, they're distressing, they're disturbing. They're the source of our pain and therefore the source of why we harm others, because they're also liars. They exaggerate. The key function is they exaggerate certain aspects of whatever it is we're cognizing. So in this case, I'm attached to this. My attachment, my emotional hunger, dumps onto this shape and color prettiness. So I hold on to its mind. She looks, oh, how disgusting, and throws it away, So we have attachment and anger, the 2 main ones, these emotional afflictions. And they have the function, 1, of disturbing us, being very painful, that we can see. But 2, and this is the harder part, they are based on conceptual stories that we've built up in our mind, and they cause the external thing to appear, as Lama Zopa says, back to us wrongly. So we can say, well, it's fine to have an opinion. Of course it is. But just see it as an opinion. We're surely trying to find the truth. This is all Buddhist deal, is what is real and what is not. That's the essence of the whole Buddhist approach. Another way of saying the whole Buddhist path is discovering what is real and what is not, what is true and what is not. It's Buddhist deal, And he's saying there is a way things do exist. And when our minds, even relatively speaking, are more in touch with the positive states of mind, like love and kindness and compassion and self-confidence and clarity, then we see things more clearly. And we know it's true. We know it's true. Just now having a conversation with my kind friend Amy, not giving her away, but it's normal human behavior, talking about a certain event that happened, and she just looked on the website, oh, it just was overwhelming, it was completely too much, I couldn't cope with it, no, possible, not possible, no. Is it not true?
It's true.
Join the universe, people. So decided, no, I won't do it. Because we panic. That's what we do. All the delusions panic. They're panic. In their nature, they're panic. Oh my God, oh, that disgusting cup, I can't cope. Go away. Or if it's like your boyfriend's cup, your ex-boyfriend's cup. Disgusting. Put it in the bin. We kind of, as soon as, so this is the point about attachment and aversion. These are 2 of the neurotic states of mind, of the 3 poisons, as we read about, this cute phrase that Buddhism uses. That's so cute, the 3 poisons. You don't go to your therapist, I've got the 3 poisons, they'll laugh at you. But the 2 main ones, the root one is this deeply ingrained, so deeply ingrained we can't even see it. Have to wait for a while to get to that one. This ego grasping, this primordial, neurotic, fear-based sense of an I, that his main voice is this attachment to get what that I wants, called attachment, that exaggerates the deliciousness of something. And then there's aversion. So we can deduce from Amy's conversation, join the universe here. Aversion rose up, which is based in panic. I can't cope, too much, go away. Don't want to look at it. Oh, unbearable, too much, blah. We all know that. We have this all. We're having panic attacks every day. Anger is a panic attack, basically. Think about this. If you're having a panic attack and you're called anxious, people feel sorry for you. But if you have anger attacks, sorry, then nobody feels sorry for you. But anger is basically anxiety, but it's loud. Do you understand my point here? It really is true. And all the Buddha is saying all the neuroses are rooted in anxiety and fear, like panic, jealousy, anxiety, depression. It's very interesting to see this. And they're all I-based. They constrict our mind. We can't see things clearly. She couldn't see what was written in those words clearly. We all know that. So, and we say, oh, that's natural. Yeah, it's natural. Yes, it is. But look at the cause of the suffering. We can't cope with attachment. Basically, can't handle things it doesn't like. Attachment like this fragile, fragile child in us that just wants everything to be nice, please. And what nice? My nice. My nice, isn't it? Do you understand me? We all recognize this. This is Buddha's analysis, in my words, okay? We recognize it. So these are the thoughts we want to try and change. Why? Because they make you miserable. Hell, it's not religious. It's practical psychology. We don't think it makes us miserable. We think she thought the words made her miserable. So this website made her miserable. This website, all these words, oh my God, so heavy, so difficult. Are we communicating? You're not feeling ashamed I'm giving you away. But we're all the same, aren't we? All the same, are we not the same? Oh, can't cope, too big, too much, too difficult, ugly. And then we say, and then we really assume it's the problem on the website. Well, it could have been. Let's say it was Mr. Trump wanting to murder people. Maybe she could say it's on the website. He's running around murdering all these Americans, he says, and now they're starting to sue him for killing their family's fishermen or something. You know, the latest one Mr. Trump's doing, killing all those people. Are we communicating, people? Okay, I've said a few things here. I think it's time to ask questions now. I think I've finished what I want to say broadly. So these are the states of mind that Buddha has discovered are not at the core of our being and can be removed, but slowly, slowly unchecking, unraveling, unpacking, deconstructing, unpacking, being your own cognitive behavioral therapist. Definitely. Unpacking and unraveling. And that takes courage. We don't want to look at our minds. It's too, especially when it's so strong. We can't bear to look, you know. And of course, the tragedy is we can't bear to look, but we always think the outside is the problem. So we got it off the hook. You know, it's not my fault. It's just that thing. We all recognize this. And the thing is, sometimes in your life, you don't want to do it in a business. You don't have to do it. You just sort of get rid of the problem. They say, if you can change something, please change it. But here we're talking about what if you can't? We've all got examples, and we know that if we can, it's like, you know, all the teachings tell us we can, and we don't want to believe it. But I can prove it recently, you know. I mean, I've got this neighbor. I moved to a nice house in New York City, my first home in my entire life. Really true. I've been I joke, I've lived in Catholic communes, my family of 9 Catholic, like a commune, Catholic commune. Then I went to convent. My mother sent me to the convent when I was naughty, walking down Murrumbina Road in her high heels at the age of 11, or 12 maybe, or 13, trying to seduce the greengrocer's son. And she sent me to live at Sacre Coeur in, you know, there in Glen Iris. No. And then, so I lived in more Catholic communes. Then I gave up God and started living in hippie communes. Then I started becoming a radical lefty and lived in kind of radical lefty communes. Then I lived in feminist communes. Then I became a Buddhist and lived in Buddhist communes. Now, finally, my old age, I've got a place of my own. It's a very, very nice experience, I have to say. Anyway, that's in New York. But my point is this. The day I moved in, it was just heaven. It was a lovely place. Had it all done nicely. Walked in the evening, so excited. And I was just moving my table around and I stomp. I don't realize it. I stomp. One of my sisters said, yeah, you walk quite heavily, Robina. Oh, we all do, she said. But then I realized, and then suddenly there's this noise on my ceiling. Bang, bang, bang from below. I thought, oh, no, I've got a noisy, a neighbor. Oh, my God, I can't believe it, you know. So then I did it the next day. I fell off a chair, made a big fat noise and more banging. And then she came up. There's a knock on the door 2 days later. And she's old, very old, more old than me. And she had a walker and her nurse behind her, like for backup, I think. And she's screaming at me. I can't, and I had my hands, the whole time I was going, oh, I'm so sorry. I was so shocked. So shocked, you know, she's screaming at me. I'm like this 24/7, she said, in her walker, right? And I heard that she's really quite sick and she has to have a machine to breathe. There's another story in a minute. I was completely shocked. I kept saying, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry. I couldn't believe this intensity. And even my friends had moved my furniture in and there was never a complaint. But and I said something and she said, you are the one. I don't know what she meant. It's just calm, I think. You are the one, she said. It was so intense. And I closed it. I thought, oh my God, I've just moved to this new house. Looking forward to my old age. This is I have to be tiptoe my house. So I forced to tiptoe. I've got used to it now. So, but the point is this, now the point is this one. I started tiptoeing and no more complaints. But then I discovered in my bedroom where I do my prayers and my practice and I do my work, my little office is there and it's all beautiful. And I was suddenly feeling these vibrations. And there's the sound of a motor. My table vibrates, and and I start to realize that she's old and she has to have a breathing machine. So this is on and off 24 hours a day. So now I'm going to put up with her sounds. And it's now 3 years, you know. So I didn't want to go down to her door and sue her for loud noises because the poor lady's trying to breathe. So I had to change my mind. And I had to do what they've been telling me to do for 45 years as a Buddhist. I didn't have a, can you hear me? I didn't have a choice. And look, when you don't have a choice, you go mad. Most people go mad and fight and scream and have wars. I mean, look at the world, look at us, you know. And I knew I had to make some decisions. Well, it worked. I'm so amazed it worked. I was able to transform problems. I can't believe it. So I did two things. I decided I'd make sure I'd notice in the house where the noise wasn't there. And I'd always make sure I sat there. When I did my prayers, I'd move my chair to that spot because I couldn't cope with the noise, you know. And I'd move forward and then the noise had come. I'd go back again. But that's where the structure of the house and the pillars and things, you know. But I decided I have to stop resisting the noise. That's just called aversion. That's called aversion. And that's when attachment doesn't get what it wants, because attachment only wants nice feelings, nice sounds. But I could see I could go crazy doing this. Do you understand me, people? So I had to just let go and sit wherever I could and accept the noise and greet it and think it's good. I had to do it. I promise you. I'm not saying I'm a saint. I'm not. And the other thing I had to do was then even try to be happy for her because it's helping her breathe. I even tried to have a bit of kindness towards her. Do you understand me? All I can say is I don't care now. So there's my proof of the pudding. And that's minor. I mean, that's tiny. You see my point? That's the reason we should change our minds, people. And we know it's true. We do it all the time. We don't think about it. Like, I mean, you know, I'm in love with, who am I in love with? Say I'm in love with Jason. And he's divine looking to me, because when you've got attachment, the object looks the most perfect. We all know he looks divine from the tip of his head to his toenails. We know that. And then suddenly he cheats me on Amy, throws me out and moves in with Amy. How does he look now? No extra grey hairs, no extra fat. Nothing has changed. But how he looks now is beyond disgusting. You want to murder him. So you've changed your mind. Isn't it? You change it. Oh, he hasn't changed. I changed my mind. Want to do the reverse, to the good one. That's all. I mean, we know it's possible. We don't want to think about it. This is the essence of Buddha's approach. And we can see he did not invent this. He doesn't own copyright on this. He didn't invent this. He's just an expert at it, that's all. And it's not moralistic. It's not religion. It's practical psychology. And it's the method to get happy. That's it. Now you're going to have to ask me questions. Disprove me to be wrong, okay? Ask me questions?
Can I ask a question?
You can.
It is my first time at a teaching session.
But never speak a bit loud so we go on the mic.
I guess my question was, sometimes I feel like the mind is a friend.
A what?
A friend.
Your mind is your friend. You mean your virtuous thoughts. Be more precise. It's your virtuous thoughts that are your friend, like kindness and compassion and patience, right? You agree? They're the parts of your mind.
Like on my side,
What?
supporting me, the mind feels like it's on my side supporting me.
No, I want to be more specific. You mean the positive thoughts.
Yes.
Anger in your mind doesn't support you, does it?
Sometimes everything is so positive, and sometimes everything is so.
No. I have to explain. I'm sorry. You can't go. You can't go further. What do you mean by that? Which part of your when you say your mind is your friend, what is going on in your mind at that time that you say it makes it your friend? You have to tell us. What kind of thoughts is it?
That is what I was. I guess that is what I was wondering, is why is it sometimes such a friend and why is it sometimes such an enemy?
So I'm asking you to answer that question. When I say from the Buddhist perspective, and I can agree with it, that when anger and jealousy and depression are in my mind, they're not my friends. Would you agree with that? Or you say you don't even, that's good. So talk to me. Why are they not? Why would you say they're your friends? How could you say anxiety and anger and jealousy are your friends?
Because I think that they teach me things and I still learn from them when I.
Okay, that's fine, but the very nature of them is not friendly, is it? Would you agree with that?
Yes.
No, I'm not forcing you. I'm asking you your opinion. Because what do you mean by your mind is your friend? You have to tell me what you mean by that then, because I can't hear it.
I guess my relationship with my mind seems kinder at times.
Oh, okay. Now I hear what you're saying. Okay, so keep talking. Go on. Keep
So
talking.
I guess
So say more about that.
is there a certain relationship we should be having with the mind, or as you said, to let it come the way that it does?
I never said that. You're saying.
No.
So what you're saying is this. Okay, so what you're saying is this. Part of you becomes familiar with what's happening in your mind, and sometimes you dislike what you see, and you're upset with yourself, and you're angry with yourself, and you have low self-esteem. That's what you're meaning, isn't it? Okay, I understand. Join the universe, people. I've never yet met a person who says, you know, Robina, I can't stop thinking good thoughts about myself. Never. Not one. Not one. So it's kind of like the irony of ego in a way, that the habits always, and this is really, to do this analysis, attachment is this very primordial kind of, it's almost like at the level of assumption, and it always is always dissatisfied. And I'll explain why in a minute. It's always feeling that I'm not enough. It's always feeling I don't have enough. No matter what I achieve, it's not enough. How much I look, it's not enough. How much my boyfriend tells me he loves me, it's not enough. That's the tragedy of the energy of attachment. So if you're always feeling that something's missing and always feeling you're not enough, then the next level of attachment is the hankering after something that will fill you up, to make the pain go away. That's the suffering of attachment in itself. So the question is, why is that such a habit, isn't it? That's how it is for everybody. So that's the nature of attachment. So I suppose the question has to be, why is there dissatisfaction? Why are we dissatisfied with ourselves automatically, you know? And this gets us to the function, the Buddhist analysis of the function of the neuroses, in this case attachment, is it exaggerates the deliciousness of something. So if we have that as a habit, it's a bit like every time you see a $50 note, you see 500. So quite literally, your mind is exaggerating the worth of 50. And if you have that habit all the time, think about this, and every time you see 50, 500 appears. So what happens is you start getting excited, and you're anticipating 500's worth. You with me? So what will be the result? What will be the result when you only get 50's worth? What will be the name of the result?
Dissatisfaction.
Disappointment, which is aversion. You might even get angry. So that is the response when attachment is thwarted. So that if you've been doing that for countless lifetimes, then dissatisfaction is just built in. Always already disappointed, and you keep thinking the cake will make you happy, and you keep thinking if you bake your nose a different shape it'll make you happy, and you keep thinking if you have this cake it'll make you happy, and you keep thinking if you have this job. Always attachment is dissatisfied, is emotionally hungry, looking for something, and then exaggerates it, and then anticipates, and then the whole cycle is continuously there. And it's very subtle and very primordial and very natural. So we would say it is natural, and it is, but what the Buddha has identified is that we can change it. But it's so primordial. We think when we say it's natural, we mean you'd be unnatural if you didn't have it. And we even confuse it with love and everything, you know. It's really, especially if you have a love with a person, attachment to a person, exaggerates their deliciousness, and you're dumping all the responsibility to make you happy onto them. And there's enormous demand and manipulation and possessiveness happening. Do you understand? And that's the suffering of attachment. That is the nature of attachment. And it's very, very hard to change it, but it's possible. One baby step at a time. Does that answer a little bit?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Don. What else, people? Questions, ask discussions, questions. Yes.
So, I've been coming to your teachings probably 20 years now,
Okay.
and I've heard many times the teaching on the cup.
Yeah, that's right. That's all this. Yeah.
Yep.
That's it.
So now I go, it's parts, it's a cup, generally it's a cup, but if I was to sit and be deep and meaningful, no, it's of many parts, etc.
All this is a good analysis. At some point,
Okay.
we need to do that. Yeah.
When it breaks, one of your think about moments said, I think it's on a journey, and it was its time to break.
Okay, good. Fair enough. Then
There is, I think of, is there not a time when you use your attachment in a positive sense? So I'm attached to my body, and if I was to be dying, I had two choices. I can either go, nothing can be done, you know, and accept it's karma, like whatever, my weeds in the garden.
I said all that. Yeah.
Or I can use my attachment to go, no, because I've done my Bodhisattva vows of you. I want to keep doing benefit to others.
That's right.
I'm a safety manager. I want to
Yep,
keep people
that's right.
safe.
Exactly. Then
So I feel I'm using my attachment. So, but should I be, the question being, is there not a point where you cut it? You
okay, I hear you.
let it go.
No, I hear you. I
give
hear you.
up
I
because-
totally. I hear you.
Yeah.
I hear you. I hear you. So if you discover, Frank's just working along and he's not dead, he's not dying or even dead yet,
Yeah.
but there's a possibility he could, maybe if he's not careful, he might have a heart attack. Then that's when your body cheat thing would kick in. Well, I don't want to have a heart attack yet. I've got healthy. I've got more to live. I've got more to do. So you could say you could use, because you're not beyond attachment yet. And on the Bodhisattva path, as Lama Zopa says, you can use your attachment. So instead of going, oh, well, I might as well just have a heart attack and die because everything's impermanent. No,
Yeah.
be attached to your body.
It's-
That can be passivity and nihilism.
No, I don't like that.
That's
what
exactly
makes
right.
it-
So it's either nihilism, which is in despair, and you might as well kill yourself, or all excited and attachment. So we've got to be more skillful and know, good, I can be worthwhile. I can keep working. I can be useful to others. So I'm going to get fit. So you use your attachment because you haven't gone beyond it yet, and you eat good food, and you look at your body, aren't I getting better? Look, of course you can.
Okay.
Rooted in wishing to be a better person. Nothing wrong with that. It's perfect. Yeah, absolutely. Exactly. Or if you're going to be attached to food, at least be attached to food that can make you healthy. That's skillful means, Do you understand me?
Yes.
Yeah.
I do. Yeah.
Don't be nihilistic. No. But if the reality is you're 5 days to death and there isn't much you can do, then there's no point in thinking other things. And you might as well accept the reality and then die with bodhicitta.
Yeah.
Do you understand me?
Yeah.
And look forward to the next. And that's where you use attachment to death. You can look forward to the next rebirth.
Because I heard His Holiness saying once, death should be like just changing your clothes.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I know.
Really.
So we better start practicing now.
There's getting up and just putting.
That's right. Well, let's start practicing now. Getting used to death, isn't it? What else, people? Questions, people?
Robina,
Yes, where are we? Rosie, darling.
what is the difference between feeling sorry for someone and expressing compassion?
Compassion, yeah. I think feeling sorry is a bit patronizing, a bit arrogant. Oh, the poor person. A bit like that, I think so. Feeling sorry for someone. I mean, we probably mean it as compassion. But I think it can be a little bit patronizing. Look at those poor, dirty people. Look at those poor, suffering people. I'm glad it's not me, sort of thing. I think it's got that feeling. Whereas empathy is an equal level. And there's empathy, you see the suffering and my goodness, look at that suffering. And then really the next one is, what can I do to help it? What can I do to fix it? That's the one. Still sorry wants to just, oh, look at those poor people, and you turn away. But real compassion, the first level is have empathy and see the suffering. But then the real next one, great compassion, which is the unique one of the Bodhisattva path. What can I do to fix it? That's the courage one. I think so. That's a difference, I think. We've got to cultivate it. It doesn't come naturally, Does that make sense?
Yes, thank
Yeah.
you.
What else, people? Or is it tea time already? 7:15, 6:15, 7:15. Bit longer, yeah? Jason?
There's a question
Question.
online.
Online. Good. Talk to me, people. Who's got the question, darlings? Hang on, sweetheart.
Okay.
Who's got a question?
Paul's asking, with your teacher Lama Zopa no longer around, is practice harder for you without a teacher to chat with in real time?
No, I hardly have a chat with him in 45 years. I can count the number of meetings I had. I chat to him in my mind.
And
So
has his passing changed your practice?
No.
Practice for you?
Yeah, knowing I could die soon too. It'll be me, I thought. No, I mean, I didn't have many meetings with Lama Zopa. I didn't have many meetings at all. I got to a few teachings. But because he's my teacher, I have this kind of internal relationship with him. It's just like when I was a Catholic, I talked to God. Now I talk to Lama Zopa. I don't know if people think that's weird. I mean, that's kind of like, that's what devotion means. I think, and that, yeah, so yeah, that's the answer. I don't know if that helps, Paul. And yeah, I suppose my practice is hopefully wake up call. It'll be my turn soon. It was the same age as me. And look at me, I'm still breathing. So make most of my life, don't waste it. Have some enthusiasm. I think like that, Paul. Go, darling.
So volunteered a lot in
Bit louder, darling.
child protection.
Child protection.
Mm.
Volunteer in what way?
Like I was doing a non-profit organization to prevent online child abuse.
Wow, good. Well done.
And I think, with dealing with these people that offend against children,
Yep.
obviously they're universally disliked.
That's right.
They're all, you know.
I know this. I think they're the lowest on the harmers list. Go on.
I suppose my question would be, you know, what sort of view should we have?
What?
What sort of view
Yes,
should we have
of them.
towards
Okay.
those people?
I mean, you know, this, I think every view we have, and this is something we mightn't necessarily think, but if we look at it, it's true. Every view we have about something is based on some kind of bigger view. So if you are a materialist philosophical person with the view, and it's a philosophical viewpoint that your mother and father, you're creators, you have a brain, and that's all there is. Therefore, from that perspective, there's no such thing as a creator who runs the universe. If you have a creative view, at least there is somebody who knows what's going on. He has a plan and you have faith in him. I think that's a good way to live your life, quite frankly. You don't know why people abuse. You don't know why that child gets abused, but you have a bigger picture that God has the view. And I think that's very powerful. And you have faith in God. That I think, but I'm a materialist view. I'm not sure. We don't know the answer to why. Why is a man born with pedophilia? What his mother, we can prove his mother didn't teach him, his father didn't teach him, and why did he have it as a little boy? And you can read that, and we're puzzled by that. You know, we don't know. So we look into his brain, we look into his grandmother and grandfather, we dig up the brains and go back, and we can't find any evidence. So we say we don't know yet. So we don't know why a person is a pedophile, and then we equally don't know why that particular child, especially if it's a child in the blue, out of the blue. You know, so we've got all these questions. So what we see is a naughty person harming a little person who is innocent. Now, if that was a 26-year-old person and another person's abusing and they both harm each other, we think, oh, well, they both deserve it, you know, screw them. But if it's a little innocent person, then we have a compassion for the innocent person, but that's based on the fact that they're innocent. If that was a 26-year-old who just punched that person back, you know, you wouldn't have compassion. So our compassion, I'd say, is limited to, it has to be innocent. And therefore, the degree of our compassion equals the degree of blame, because we then, here's the bad one. We have to put the blame on somebody. So that's how we live. Would you agree that's the view of the world? So that's the view I would suggest you have from that philosophical perspective. I think so. Now, the Christian one, I suggest, if you've got faith in God, you know, God's got a plan, and maybe that child, who knows, that's a big one, but if you have real faith in God, that would work for you. Which doesn't mean you can't help the child. You can try and do that. But equally, you perhaps might help the man too, because you have your God isn't everybody. They'd help you even have compassion. I remember. Oh, okay, so now the Buddhist view, this is interesting. The Buddhist view would be, and especially if you're Tibetan Buddhist, you know, you study in depth the teachings about karma. So this whole view of karma, which is, to many Buddhists is unknown. They don't even care about it. But if you look at the whole Buddhist worldview from a big picture point of view, everything is based on this view that consciousness is not physical. It's not made by a creator. It's not the handiwork of mummy or daddy. I didn't say this before. It's a continuity of mental moments that goes back and back and back and goes forward, forward, forward. And that every living being, every millisecond of what they think and do and say is the very process that produces that person. And that it's a natural law, and everything that happens, good and bad, is rooted in this natural law. Now, that's a big, big shock even to Buddhists. And we take a while to get our head around it, you know? So if you really do have that view and it informs your life, you'll have compassion for the pedophile, and you will have compassion for the child, and you'll do what you can to protect the child, and you'll even help the person go to prison, because it's not sentimental compassion, because you know that he's harming himself. That's the key. So I remember we did a conference years ago in San Francisco, and one of the little pieces was about restorative justice, how you deal with people. So it was one of my friends, what's his name? Andre, who works with prisoners in North Carolina, and he's a friend of mine. He happens to be black. And then there's a woman, a Christian, she happened to be white, and they each had their children murdered. The mother, her 16-year-old daughter, was raped and murdered, and Andre, his son, was shot to death, stabbed in a bar. And they were talking, each of them. So the Christian lady, she became a Christian after that happened, and she wanted to meet the murderer. She wanted to meet this murderer. She wanted to meet. And he was so happy to meet her. It was a very powerful meeting, you know, because she had this faith in God. So anyway, she said the child, he told the mother that the 16-year-old girl, after he'd raped her, he was out of his brain on drugs, and he felt he had to kill her. And before he shot her, he said, she looked me in the eye and she said, I forgive you, and God does too. I mean, that's pretty incredible, isn't it? That's based on faith in God. Andre was asked on the news that night, how do you feel about the murder of your son? And he was like in tears. And he said, how could I not have compassion for him? His suffering is only just beginning. So that even, forget next life, but this life. So that's pretty intense. And that feels real for him because he works with young men in prison, you know. His suffering is only just beginning. But that, see, our trouble is our compassion is sentimental because it's only for innocent victims. So then you say, well, you have compassion for the pedophile. It means, oh, the poor man can't help but get him off the hook. No, it's tough love. So you can have a justice system that still is based on stopping people from harming, you know. But it's got to be based on compassion, which is a really hard one. But even if you don't even know about karma, that was powerful because when he said it to the news, he didn't go on about karma. And this is really the point. And I always think about a pedophile. Everybody hates a pedophile except his mum loves her. He's got a mum. And you know what? She has compassion for him because she knows his little boy and she knows he's harming himself. And that's the hardest one to get. We don't want to know about that because that's the Buddhist point. If you harm anybody, it's coming from your attachment and your anger and your anxiety and your despair and rage. But we don't want to say that because as soon as we say that, we feel we're letting them off the hook. So it's a lot of stuff we've got to work through, you know, to look into our assumptions, I think. Do you understand me? You with me? Good. Thank you so much.
There's another question from Sandra online.
Go, Sandra, darling.
She says, many thanks, Venerable Robina, for your teaching. When we are sleeping and our senses shut down, we are unable to hear what's going on in our environment unless it wakes us up. When we are in a coma and the like, how are we able then to...
Good point. No, very good point. That can also happen in your sleep. That's your mental consciousness, right? That's your mental consciousness. So I had a dream this morning and I was close to this person and I felt the warmth of their body. Do you understand me? So mental consciousness can be, when it's very vivid, can have experiences of hearing and seeing. That's exactly what happens in a coma for the person above their body. They're not above their body, by the way. Your mind doesn't leave the body. It just has that feeling of leaving the body, of out of body experience. You understand? So that the mental consciousness can have that experience. I mean, during one of my first retreats, I had these, and Tushita Dharamsala, we'd have a nap at lunchtime. It was rainy season. And I remember a certain point, for about a week, these crystal clear dreams and fast asleep, crystal clear dreams, but I was completely conscious of what they were doing outside, the bangs and the noises so that's your mental conscious. It's capable, and the greatest yogis, of course, can go to that every time and be utter conscious no matter what. Do you understand me? So it's a good question, and that is for sure capable. Absolutely. Many people report that in dreams, you know. It's very not uncommon. Your mental consciousness is capable. So, for example, a friend of mine in Sydney, Judy, was close to death. She was in the hospital. She was in a deep coma. They said she wouldn't come out of it. And she knew some of the lamas. And I'd asked Songsa Khyentse students to get Songsa to pray for Judy. And Sakya Trizin, she used to have him stay in her house. So I got the students to please ask him to pray for Judy. So I went to the hospital every night. Was in somewhere up on the way up the North Shore in Sydney. And I'd go at night because you could drive fast through the French's Forest, you see. And I got there and it was and they told them I was coming, the ER people. When I got there, they knew I was a Buddhist nun. They said, please don't ring any bells, you know. I promised I wouldn't. So I just sat there and did prayers in Judy's ears. And she came out of a coma weeks later and I went to visit her and she said the only thing she could remember was exactly those words. She thought it was this husky voice, she said. So it was a blue lady coming through the window. And there's exactly those words, Judy. Songsa Khyentse Rinpoche is praying for you. Judy, His Holiness Sakya Trinidad is praying for you. I mean, you can't argue with that, you know. So mental consciousness is capable. And when you're a yogi, that's why, and see, the mental consciousness is far more powerful. And this is a very limited experience we're describing, but it's far more powerful. And because it's more powerful and it's trained in meditation, it has the ability to, because it's more subtle, it can recognize more subtle things like the past and the future and the minds of others. Clairvoyance in Buddhism is a completely clear, brilliant, amazing, sophisticated level of mind. There isn't like just some hippie trippy, I was an Egyptian princess 14 lives ago. It's as seeing as if it were there. That's the level of mind that Buddhism has described, and the Hindus before them discovered this level of mind that does not exist in the modern psychology. That's for sure. So it's infinitely powerful, a capable state of mind. We might just touch on it occasionally, you know. I hope that answers, Sandra. Yes, darling, does. Good one, good. So get some single point of concentration, Sandra. Then you can see the past and the future, the minds of others, and you'll be able to help people. Okay. Is it time for tea and snacks?